Hello everyone, I welcome you all to this module 14 of course UN SDGs. So in this module we are going to cover SDG 6, that is clean water and sanitation. So let's see. 2.2 billion people around the world still lack safely managed drinking water. Safely managed drinking water, point to focus, 2.2 billion, and the world's population, just few days back it was declared by UN that we have crossed 8 billion number, including 785 million without basic drinking water. So yeah, these are the two different categories, they mean differently. So safely managed drinking water, 2.2 billion, that means more than 1/4 of the human population is not facilitated with the supply of safely managed drinking water. You can see the picture here. And yeah, basic drinking water 785 million. Well, why it matters? Again, in the chain of if you see like these SDGs, the way we are progressing, from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so very much like a basic survival, like necessities, then survival with like some good like health and well-being, and like good futuristic like a scope, education, then equality, gender equality, and then comes right next to this is clean water and sanitation, because after food, health and education and gender equality, this is water and sanitation. So that is in the line you can see from the basic necessities, like a portion. Well, so what do we understand like about the goal in this context? Well, very simple, to ensure access to safe water sources and sanitation for everyone. Okay, so if you kind of read in the history, you will see some incidences when microbial life wasn't kind of discovered, okay, properly. So in the streets of London, it used to flow of like a sewer, like several times, and they used to contract cholera and other dysentery and other like a such diseases, right? And they were not aware like why is it happening, how is it happening and all. Okay, while drinking water also they used to see it's, yeah, it looks clear, it's nice, right? So just by looking at the water they used to kind of understand that it's kind of a clean water, it's potable water, but that wasn't. Okay, so just remember is the situation of like a London we are talking about, like a I think 2 centuries back or so, right? And yeah, well, slowly it was discovered ki even if the water looks like a clear, it looks like a transparent, and there is no visible like issues in the water, but it might like a contain other microbial like a presence and like a things, right, which can prove fatal also, like in most of the cases this became a kind of like a pandemic kind of a situation, and a lot of people actually died. Okay, the whole place was affected very badly. Well, so this like ensuring like this thing portable and wholesome like a safe like a source of water is essential, right? Because otherwise it's going to put you in a very dangerous and like an uncomfortable situation, right? Well, why access to water, sanitation and hygiene is a human right? Yeah, so you see like this has listed down under human rights. It is so essential, so basic, it is considered so fundamental, right? So that is the like a point over here. Well, this has water, sanitation and hygiene. So three factors, three things are there. The demand for water has outpaced population growth, and half the world's population is already experiencing severe water scarcity at least once a month, a year, at least 1 month a year. So yeah, water is essential not only to health but also to poverty reduction, food security, peace and human rights, ecosystems, education, etc. Well, it's just a kind of like a theory, and this has been doing the rounds for quite some time, that if third world war might happen, it might happen over like a water. Well, God forbid, it should not happen. It must not happen at any cost. Like there should be no reason, to go for the World War III, definitely. But yeah, it proves, like the nature of, like a vital, like importance for the survival of the society, for the, like our communities, like people, countries, right? The water is so important. Even if now, if you see, like a lot of countries, they have disputes. A lot of states also, they have disputes over, like a sharing of water resources, sharing of waters from rivers, lakes, and like so on, right? So thus it is a cause of like a friction at like several places, right? And the thing is ki, if this scarcity is going to grow, and if the demand is going to also increase, the situation is going to be grave, right? And who knows, like it may kind of destabilize the peace and security, right? So coming down, from that, like a very much at the global level, like the country level, to the individual households level, right? A safe supply of water is very essential for like a maintaining health and hygiene of the family, right? Every members, including kids and elderly, right? So it's very much important. And of course, for the ecosystem, okay, so the planet Earth, has sustained, like life, because of like a presence of water, right? In the water, those hospitable and comfortable, kind of environments actually got generated, right? And life began, from single cell, like a life forms to the like multi-cell life forms, and the whole thing has evolved. Well, that is our understanding, like till now, right? And even like any organic matter, if you see, like our human body, or maybe vegetables, fruits, like or cereals and grains, they all are possible because of water. And a huge percentage in our, even our bodies, is also water, right? So water is so essential, we cannot live without water, right? So well, I hope this is a common fact, we all know, right? So I'm not going to emphasize on like that part, why water is essential, we all know. But look, what can be done and how and all that, so we will be discussing like more from that perspective, targets perspective. So let's proceed. Nevertheless, countries face growing challenges linked to water scarcity, water pollution, degraded water-related ecosystems, and cooperation over transboundary water basins. So we were discussing, like because in nature, elements, are not bounded by human, like a control, right? Nature's elements have their own ways of, like transversing across, like the planet. Like water, like has a, like a cycle, right? It kind of takes the form of steam, right, from the vapor, from the oceans, then it goes back to the sky, then clouds, then like it in the form of different types of precipitation, it falls down, right, again it travels, right? So that ecosystem, if you see, is like very much balanced and kind of like a sustained, like a ecosystem for like a millions of years, right? So if that also gets disturbed, all of the life forms and all the things which are coming from the nature are also going to affect it, right? So that thing. And these, like water systems, they work actually transboundary, like situations. You can see over here, transboundary water basins. That means this boundary is drawn by like a humans, but these elements are transboundary, right? They cannot be bounded, by boundaries. You cannot say like this much of air is mine, that much of air is yours, right? We cannot divide like that. So that's why it is essential, like it's a common global resource, and we have to see it, from that perspective. What are the challenges to lack of access to safe water and sanitation? In 2017, an estimated 3 billion people worldwide lacked the ability to safely wash their hands at home. One of the cheapest, easiest, and most effective ways to prevent the spread of diseases like coronavirus. So we came across these measures since like the beginning itself of this pandemic, COVID-19, that maintaining a clear, clean, like a hygiene, personal hygiene, is very essential, for keeping distance, from this virus. So even if you have contracted by like a touching some object, or maybe coming in contact with somebody, okay, it is likely that if you wash your hands, clean yourself, if you take a whole body wash and all that, bath, after coming from outside, okay, so you will be very much likely that you will wash off like that virus also, because that virus could not sustain the like a soapy like that environment. right? So that was like essential. So having like a supply of water at least for hand wash was going to be a crucial thing, and a big number of people, households, they were deprived of even this basic like a need. So we see like that figure stands at 3 billion people, like 3 billion out of like a 8 lack the ability to safely wash their hands at home. So water sanitation and hygiene services are also not always available at medical care facilities. In 2016, 1 in 4 facilities around the world lacked basic water supplies. So even medical care facilities were also not equipped. 1 in 5 had no sanitation services, 20%, and 2 in 5 had no soap and water or alcohol based hand rub at point of care, like 40%. So these are the like realistic numbers coming from across the world. These are global numbers, and of course there are some well equipped countries, but there are some very badly managed and resource deprived countries also. So it's an average, and today 4.2 billion people are still faced with daily challenges accessing even the most basic of services. Of these, 673 million people practiced open defecation. So like maybe because they do not have like a water closet, like a facility at home, like a toilets and like a stuff. Okay, and that's the reason they are forced to go for like a open defecation. Otherwise nobody would like to, right? But majority of like this group, actually families, they do not have like a such resources. If you may remember, few years back there was like this big drive at national level to like a construct toilets for families, households who do not have like this as a indoor like in-house facility, right? And millions of like toilets were constructed like across like the country, right, to kind of get rid of like this practice of open defecation. And similar kind of situations are there in many other countries, like sub-Saharan, many African, and yeah, other South Asian countries. By managing our water sustainability, we are also able to better manage our production of food and energy and contribute to decent work and economic growth. Moreover, we can preserve our water ecosystems, their biodiversity, and take action on climate change. Are water and climate change linked? So, this connection, what do you think? Are they linked? Definitely. Water availability is becoming less predictable in many places. Well, why is that happening? Let's see. In some regions, droughts are exacerbating water scarcity and thereby negatively impacting people's health and productivity and threatening sustainable development and biodiversity worldwide. So you may be aware droughts and floods are not new to the like a planet, right? They have been occurring so from like before also, but there was a kind of like a pattern, okay, a regular pattern, a predictable sort of predictable like a pattern. But in the recent years, when the the whole phenomena of climate change has happened or is happening, okay, during this time the frequency of these occurrences have gone like like a high, plus now there are more, the frequency has increased, and now this has become unpredictable. Sometime okay, sometime like a okay, sometime like a very bad in both the dimensions, like and things like that. So now this kind of pattern has become like unpredictable, plus the frequency has increased, right? There are more number of severe conditions where there is too much of water or there is no water at all, right? So yeah, causing floods and droughts. So this frequency has increased and its magnitude has also increased. Okay, that actually issue is bringing a lot of miserable condition for like places. Ensuring that everyone has access to sustainable water and sanitation services is a critical climate change mitigation strategy for the years ahead. Yeah, managing this water resource and supplying and ensuring this supply is a big challenge. Without better infrastructure and management, millions of people will continue to die every year from water related diseases such as malaria and diarrhea. Yeah, very common, most common, like a waterborne diseases, okay, or water caused diseases, if not waterborne. Okay, well, of course, diarrhea is a condition which caused by like a amoebic dysentery and like all of those things. All right, so when they go in your digestive tract, okay, they create issues. Malaria again is a like a mosquito, like a born, like a disease, and those mosquitoes are actually bred in the like a standing the stagnant like a water, decaying water, right? So both of these actually are the like a biggest like a killers of humanity, even like a today, right? So a big challenge related to water, and there will be further losses in biodiversity and ecosystem resilience, undermining prosperity and efforts towards a more sustainable future. Well, what can be done? Civil society organizations should work to keep governments accountable, invest in water research and development, and promote the inclusion of women, youth, and indigenous communities in water resource governance. So, if you see, there is a mention of women, indigenous communities, right? And yeah, including like all of those like people who are like stakeholders in some way, right? And bringing governments like a accountability, right, in this management and supply and resource like fulfillment, right? So all of these, if you see, are the important like stakeholders. Okay, so if you draw a causal map of these water related issues related to maybe your place, your particular place, okay, you will be able to identify those important stakeholders, nodes, actors, and their interrelationships. Okay, who is able to conduct or play their role nicely, effectively, with accountability. Okay, and where there is like some improvement needed, so accordingly you can like propose your interventions and suggestions. Generating awareness of these roles and turning them into action will lead to win-win results and increase sustainability and integrity for both human and college systems. You can also get involved in the World Water Day and World Toilet Day campaigns that aim to provide information, inspiration to take action on hygiene issues. So, well, at local level, definitely you can look for opportunity to associate yourself with the different bodies, or you may also take the lead and take a responsibility and like begin with some initiative with your own hands. Let's see some numbers. So before COVID-19, despite progress, billions still lack water and sanitation services. 2.2 billion people lack safely managed drinking water, we saw as per 2017, and 4.2 billion people lack safely managed sanitation. So twice, almost twice of like this. So almost like half of the population, you can easily conclude, it's 8 billion, right? So almost half of like a population of the world lacks safely managed sanitation. Okay, well, what do we mean by safely managed sanitation? One may like ask. So whenever like there is like this like a toilet facility in your place, right? So how this thing is kind of getting like discharged, okay, through to maybe a septic tank over here, or maybe it goes to like a sewage treatment plant, STP, and then from there it goes to the like like other like a things for like recycling of water, or like a solid waste segregation and treatments and all of those things, right? Or it is just getting kind of discharged in the ground loosely, right? Or maybe down the drain loosely, without any control, without any like a treatment, okay, drain, sewer, etc. Or maybe it's just like going in the open drain, perhaps in your village, in your town or place, wherever you are, okay, causing like a lot of issues, and like a smell, stench, and like a harboring mosquitoes, right? And spoiling the like a soil, right, spoiling the water bodies, and things like that. Okay, so of course all of these are the causes which you can definitely say are not safely managed solutions. Okay, if it goes to a proper like a septic tank with the like a twin chambers, okay, for segregation, filtration, and treatment, etc., then it is all right. If it goes to the STP, it's wonderful, right? But if not, okay, definitely this qualify for like non safely, you know, like a managed sanitation solution, right? So it means, you know, half of the population, perhaps, you know, little above, you know, like half of the population, because we have just reached 8 billion and this is 4.2 billion, right? So just, you know, little over, you know, like a 50%, you know, population is not in good shape, right? So, and there are further aggravation because of COVID. So 3 billion people worldwide lack basic hand washing facilities at home, the most effective method for COVID-19 prevention. So we know like how much this has been propagated, you know, to the people. Yeah, 2 in 5 healthcare facilities worldwide have no soap and water or alcohol-based, you know, hand rub. Okay, so 40% again here also. Water scarcity could displace 700 million people by 2030. Okay, so migrations, even mini migration and things like that. Okay, so in the summer months it becomes so bad, like there is no water at all, you know, from any sources, that people are forced to, you know, like a flee, right? So that is the, you know, like a thing we are talking about over here, like displacement of like people, communities. Some countries experience a funding gap of 61% for achieving water and sanitation targets. Yeah, so what does it say? If you see inside, you know, like a goal 6, its targets. So universal and equitable access to drinking water for everyone by 2030, adequate and equitable sanitation and hygiene for everyone. 2020, protect and restore water related ecosystems. So this restoration, you know, like approaches, you know, should have been completed by 2020. Expand international cooperation and capacity building support to developing countries in water activities and programs. Implement integrated water resource management. Support and strengthen the participation of local communities in improving water and sanitation management. Yeah, so here we can see the, you know, like a score, you know, by different states. So different Indian states, like how they have like a scored. Okay, so it's a relative, you know, like a comparison over here given on SDG 6. Okay, so it is best, you know, like topped by Gujarat. Okay, and the value is around 0.738, and this is the lowest. It is found in the state of Bihar with 0.285, then Jharkhand, then Uttar Pradesh, you know, Chhattisgarh, Bengal, Rajasthan, Odisha, etc. And then here from the top, you know, is Gujarat, then Goa, Telangana, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu Kashmir, Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, etc. Right. So this is the score, you know, like achieved by these states, and yeah, some detail, you know, like goals, targets, and indicators. Right. So, and yeah, custodian agencies also you can see on the right side, like which agency majorly controls, you know, like this. So we'll see in this table the goal and the indicators in custodian agencies, international agencies. By 2030, achieve universal equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water. Afriban, proportion of population using safely managed drinking water services. Okay, so you can check through these, you know, like facts, right? And it is monitored by WHO and UNICEF. These are the custodian agencies. Adequate and equitable sanitation and hygiene for everyone. Proportion, again by checking the proportion, again managed by the same. Improve water quality by reducing pollution, you know, like eliminating dumping, etc. Yeah, so proportion of wastewater safely treated. So total to safely, you know, like treated with that volume you can compare, and it is monitored by UN Habitat and DESA UNS, WHO, right, and so on. So you can see all of these, you know, like targets are listed down over here, you know, and the indicators are given. How do you assess it, and who is going to like take care of this? Yeah, and number of SDG targets in which parameter is included. So those targets you can see for monitoring, participation, rights, and then you know, it is close to like 1, and then we have research and development for 10 mark is 5. Then these two plans, policy, legislation, international cooperation at 6, and here we have at 9. These are infrastructure, technology, finance and specific initiatives, and capacity building at 13. Yeah, again proportion of countries reporting on SDG 6 indicators. So percentage of reporting countries you can see over here. This is the world's 193 countries. Countries not involved in UN Water Integrated Monitoring Initiative 163, and involved in UN Water Integrated Monitoring Initiative 30 countries only. This is shown by green. So here you can see 6.1.1 that target, and this is the percentage, like average of the world. We have like around 43, 44, right, and then red not involved, 163 countries representation is close to 41. Then 30 countries who are involved in this integrated monitoring initiative. Okay, for them actually this percentage stands at around 55, 56% or something like that, right? Yeah, and relatively you can see for all of these indicators. Yeah, I would recommend to watch this video. Maybe you can watch it in your free time. Yeah, so if you see, this is a picture of a girl closes a pit latrine in a small village between Gabu and Bafata regions, which had just been declared open defecation free. So very recently this has happened. You can see this is a source, okay, and yeah, so now but that means like just like before this and earlier the society used to have like an open defecation like a pattern, right? And recently they have changed, but this also looks like a very crude and not so well managed and all, right? So but still at least it is now placed at one place, and I am sure like they are like even have management or things for this discharge like a treatment, right? Yeah, there is another video I would recommend for everyone to see. Please have a look. Okay, it talks about like the importance of this SDG and what can be done like about it. So moving on, proportion of population using safely managed drinking water services. So this we can see here in the world, roughly around 70 is 70% is safely managed. This dark like a blue, basic is for like a 17, here it is 71, yeah, 17, and then we have 4, 6 and 2. So 4 is for limited and unimproved 6, and surface water for 2%. Okay, this is as per 2015. It's a world's data sourced from these two agencies. So this is where one can like understand like where we are in terms of like achieving this target of safely managed like a water resource. And yeah, what are the basic services you can see? What all does it constitute? Free from contamination, available when needed, and accessible on premises. So these are the three like a criterias for which you can say it's a safely managed like a water service. Okay, so there should not be any contamination of any sort, right? And yeah, available whenever you want. You do not have to like seek or go somewhere else to collect water, and it should be available on your premises at your own place, right? So that is the thing. So if it satisfies the three like criteria, this is safely managed water. 7 out of 10 people used safely managed drinking water in 2015. So this is definitely like a good like a percentage, but still we can say like around 30 like 29 like a percentage is yet to get like this. So definition, you can see what is safely managed, like a water. We are seeing in from slide 1, drinking water from an improved water source that is located on premises, available when needed and free from fecal or priority chemical contamination. That is safely managed water. Basic water, drinking water from an improved source provided collection time is not more than 30 minutes for a round trip including queuing. So that is basic water facility where you need to go out and fetch your own water, okay, but yeah, that quality and all of those things should be there. Then limited, light yellow, we are drinking water from an improved source for which collection time exceeds 30 minutes. So even this time is also considered like in defining like that slab. So if it is a basic like water facility, it should be accessible to and fro in less than 30 minutes. If it is exceeding that, then it goes in the light yellow category, that is limited service level. Then unimproved service level, drinking water from an unprotected dug well or unprotected spring. So where there is no checks and measures or no testing or validation of the water quality, if people are like sourcing water from those places, right, like unprotected like wells, right, unprotected springs and natural springs in the open, okay, because if they are in the mountain ranges and also there is a high chance that they may not be polluted and all, but if it is found in general populated like area, then the chances of like some form of contamination increases, right. So that becomes unimproved service level. And then surface water, drinking water directly from a river, dam, lake, pond, stream, canal or irrigation like a system. When you fetch and use it, that is surface water, it goes like under that. Regional drinking water coverage in 2015 percentage. So we can see in continuation to the previous slide, safely managed dark blue. So the highest safely managed like a dark blue category is present in Europe and Northern America. You see this one, this column, right? And then second highest column we have from Latin America and Caribbean, right? And then Oceania. If you see this Australia and New Zealand, they have almost 100% basic service systems like a water supply, 94 in Eastern Asia and Southern Eastern Asia, and then Northern Africa and Western Asia 91%. Oceania only 52%, but the worst situation is here, Sub-Saharan Africa only at 24% and basic 34% and rest the remaining 3 are in 40% range. So this is this distribution. There are wide regional variations in coverage of safely managed drinking water services from 24% in Sub-Saharan Africa to 94% in Europe and Northern America. This one, right? So Eastern Asia and Southern Eastern Asia. So there is so much of disparity, from 24 to 94 and in some cases 100%. Further, proportion of population using safely managed sanitary services including a hand washing facility with soap and water. Okay, so what is safely managed service in this context? First, it should qualify wastewater treated like off-site, not on-site, and excreta treated and disposed of in situ, so that wherever like this thing is going on, if you dispose it off properly right there at that place itself, it is like the most like nice and effective. Excreta emptied and treated off-site. Okay, so yeah, so both of these things off-site and even wastewater also treatment, if it is off-site, you can say like it is a safely managed like a sanitation service. 2 out of 5 people use safely managed sanitation services in 2015. Okay, so safely managed, you can see up to like a 40%. Okay, so 2/3, right? This percentage comes from like mostly European and like those continent, right? Well, what is safely managed, like a sanitation? So you can see what is this service level, that definition is given. Use of improved facilities that are not shared with other households and where excreta are safely disposed of in situ or transported and treated off-site. Okay, so not a public toilet. Okay, that doesn't qualifies as a like a facility to your family, right? So you should be very clear about establishing this fact. Then basic use of improved facilities that are not shared with other households. Limited use of improved facilities shared between 2 or more households, not more than that. So 2 or little, like a few more. Unimproved use of pit latrines without a slab or platforms, hanging latrines or bucket latrines. Okay, so those are unimproved. And then open defecation is of course very clear. Disposal of human feces in fields, forests, bushes, open bodies of water, beaches, etc. Okay, just in open, right? So that's a open defecation, like a thing. The region wise percentage, like we can see over here, the least, there is no safely managed, like a percentage over here. Sub-Saharan, Oceania, Central Asia and Southern Asia, and the least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, and some small scale island developing states. So they have almost nil safely managed water category. They are beginning from basic water services facilities itself, and that stands at 28, 36, 50, 32, 40 and 68 for these region wise distributions. The best performance is of course from Europe and Northern America. The safely managed percentage is at 78 and remaining 19 at basic, and very few percentage left over here, which goes in the limited, unimproved and open defecation categories. So this is the slide which talks about trend in biochemical oxygen demand. It's called at BOD also. Concentrations in rivers between 1990 to 1992 and 2008 to 2010. So this is the outcome of this model, this study, which says like trend in biochemical oxygen demand, concentrations in rivers between these two, like a span of years. Okay, so Gray's data is not there, so we don't know what is happening here, and majority of Europe and like almost all of the Europe and Russia, right, and Australia and New Zealand also, it looks like. Okay, they are not part of this thing. There is no data available perhaps, or this is not computed. So with the limited water quality monitoring data available, the recent World Water Quality Assessment, United Nations Environmental Program 2016, employed a modeling approach. It concluded that pollution in Latin America, Africa, Asia is increased between 1990 to 2010 because of growth in wastewater loadings to rivers and lakes. As an example, organic pollution, like measured as biochemical oxygen demand, worsened in more than half of the river stretches. Pollution increased to a severe level or was already severe and had worsened by 2020 or 2010. I think, yeah, by that year, in a subset of these river stretches. However, most rivers are still in good condition and there are great opportunity for reducing further pollution and restoring the water quality. Okay, so this is the description. You can see increasing trend of particular concern is depicted by reds. So I think southern, this Plateau region, southern Indian region, Rajasthan, Gujarat, and parts of Maharashtra region, and this Himalayan, I think sub-Himalayan, this Gangetic belt. Okay, this has like a presence of like an increased trend of particular concern, and then yellows at most of the places. I think China also is full. African continent almost is like a full in the middle, except few there are like reds in this side, and Southern America almost is full of like some reds and a lot of yellows, right? So what are the water related ecosystem services? So we will see here in this slide. ecological and economic services and benefit to society by generating income, promoting well-being and preventing damage that inflicts cost on society. So what are those ecological services and what are comparable economic services? So it's a kind of like a two column like arrangement. So climate moderation, nutrient cycling, wastewater, food control, groundwater recharge, habitats for many species, genetic resources and biodiversity, scientific information. And economic food wise, if you see, it's a direct food, drinking water, irrigation, hydroelectricity, transportation, recreation, employment. So these are actually economic services. Compared to that, like there exist ecological services also, which we should be aware of. Okay, that's why this slide, so that you consider them as an like economic, not economic, ecological assets. Okay, and they should not malfunction and they should not go actually bust, right? So this is a picture from North Darfur. Okay, women in El Fasher, North Darfur, uses a water roller. This is the source. So these women used to carry like these pots at the top of their head for several kilometers. Okay, and what like these agencies and some designers actually came to the rescue, and they designed a water like a capsule in a form of like a cylinder, like rolling one. So compared to like carrying the same weight at the top of your head and pulling it on ground, because pulling again further is going to reduce the amount of effort you need to put in. Okay, so that you can easily, like these women can drag like this cannon. So definitely it's a very simple like a solution, but helped a big number of people and households to get like water efficiently. So SDG 6 interlinks the three dimensions of sustainable development. Well, ESEs we know. So in environment, if you see, water is an integral part of this like a biosphere, where life has been become like possible. Water and other ecosystem services, so essentially like like directly connected, no need to emphasize. Sustainable water use and pollution control, finances for the environment. Okay, so this also can be your topic depending upon your strength, your background. Then in the society, we have water resources and other ecosystem services, sustainable water use and pollution control, education and legislation. And here at the top we have healthy and educated people, social and political stability, employment and poverty reduction, finances for public services. So in a way, if you see, it's again a to and fro, like a cyclic model, where things are so much interdependent and related, right? One leads to another. Once improvement leads to like a further improvement in the next one. Okay, so with this almost we have come to the end of like this session. Before that, before closing, I would like to reiterate like this from a UN environment, that in the challenges, unsafe water, inadequate sanitation and insufficient hygiene kills 3.5 million people every year. That means 35 lakhs like people every year they get killed out of like a water related issues. Very simply, don't pollute like those water bodies, don't dump, don't throw waste, okay, chemicals and other things. Okay, look for responsible and proper disposal, and don't spoil these. Invest in sanitation, raise awareness on best hygiene, etc. Then point 2, 80% of wastewater is released the environment untreated. So 80% of it is still untreated, which goes in the system. Degrade the environment and you destroy nature's ability to provide safe drinking water. This is the point I was talking about initially. Wherever like there is a kind of a toilet like a facility, right, and some like a few feet away, if there is like these hand pumps or any sort of like a water supply, where you are fetching like a water and like quenching the thirst. Okay, so this like has direct relation of creating like a contamination. So microbial like a presence from its exhaust has the potential to reach to this like hand pumps like a water resources, and again it may travel up, can come up and cause like issues at this site, right? Lastly, water scarcity affects more than 40% of global population. So water scarcity in some form Okay, we have seen like there are examples from our country as well. Restore ecosystems to secure access to safe water. So it is essential to, well, of course, have buildings, but even trees also, greenery also, because that helps retaining water in the topsoil, right? If there is no water, right, this soil is going to drain this whole thing out. Okay, so you need to maintain this and ensure like a balance of man-made and like a nature's like elements also together in our biosphere, right? So, well, I think it is very simple. We all have like experienced water related like things in our life, in our like places of where we are living. So maybe you can make a quick like a walk in your vicinity, in your neighborhood, and see what is the condition of water facility, drinking water facilities, and sanitation like services. So yeah, and please share through your design projects. So with this we have come to the end of this lecture. Thank you all for joining. See you in the next lecture.